Welcome to my BreadTube channel. My name's Carter. And today we're going to be talking about how Marx was bi. Left is when no jokes. I'm on Hogwatch today. Okay, oh, you already see? Oh my god, here we go. This could be based. You guys want to see PragerU justify fascism?
Against all odds, the Americans won their war of independence. But their success brought a new challenge, no less daunting.
That's every video, true.
What sort of government should they choose for themselves? How could they ensure that the tyranny of the English king, George III, would not be replaced by a homegrown tyranny? One possibility was to establish an American monarchy with a better king. That was tempting for some, especially because they had a superb person for the job, General George Washington. To his legion of admirers, the fact that he did not want to be king made him an even more attractive candidate. The other possibility was to establish a republic, a government of and by the people and their representatives. But this solution came with a big problem. Historically, republics like those in ancient Greece and Rome had always failed. And when they failed, they were usually replaced by the very worst, most oppressive forms of tyranny.
Oh, you mean kind of like what we're going through right now? That's crazy, right? Wait, that's kind of crazy. What you mean republics don't work? And we should have just done, I don't know, direct democracy?
Might there be a way...
Weird. Weird.
...to make republicanism work and last? To structure a constitution that would protect the new American republic from the social and political pathologies that had destroyed republics throughout history. America's founding fathers, men like Washington, Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, we tried to do that on January 6th.
John Adams, Alexander Hamilton, and James Madison believed they had answers. They had risked everything when they declared their independence from England. They were willing to risk everything again to create a new, different, and better type of republic. The key, they all agreed.
We can do it better, bro. Trust us. Bro, trust. Trust us. We can do it better. I promise, okay? Yo, trust.
Was to establish structural limits on power, the power of anyone and any institution exercising governmental authority. In the summer of 1787, in one of the most creative acts in human history, these men, minus Jefferson and Adams, who were serving the country abroad, fashioned a national government divided into three separate parts or branches: the legislative, Congress; the executive, the president; and the judicial, the courts. Congress would make the laws. The executive would execute the laws, and the courts would settle disputes arising under the Constitution and laws of the United States.
Wait, one of these is not like the other. One of these is not like the other.
Dividing power.
This is, by the way, the judicial branch then becomes extremely unbalanced because the judicial can just say that either one of these is wrong, right? But the executive can't override this, right? There is imbalance here. There's a lot of imbalance here.
Would prevent power being concentrated in any...
They can build it back better.
...one branch, the concept of checks and balances. Moreover, the central government would be limited to the powers specific.
I thought the founders' opinion was generally that Parliament was overreaching its authority with the taxes it had passed, and George wasn't asserting his right to rule the colonies, help his subjects, and they actually wanted a stronger executive because of that. Well, I mean, the executive branch isn't the strongest. The judicial is, right? At least in our system, the judicial branch is kind of fucked. Lower courts hold no power, but the Supreme Court holds supreme power. They set precedent, right? Which no other branch of government can do. So when writing laws or coming up with laws in Congress or anything, that is then set by the judicial branch of what they can do, right? Which leads them to kind of dictate and have the most power, right? It's kind of insane. Yeah, theoretically, Congress should be the strongest, but the Supreme Court ends up being the strongest, right? Because they don't ever expand the court. Exactly. They never expanded the court. The Supreme Court can't enforce anything doesn't matter, right? The reason it doesn't matter if the Supreme Court can enforce anything is because they know no one will ask questions. They'll enforce it anyways, right? Look at what happened with Roe versus Wade. The states are going to enforce it anyways, right? There is no law surrounding abortion now. So states decided to enforce what was before, right? And with Congress being where we are now in America, the most deadlocked it's ever been and ever will be because of gerrymandering.
The Supreme Court.
Though liberal, or let's say American left, like let's just say progressive, right? Even though most people in America are pretty socially progressive, right? Socially, we still are in a deadlock because we're in gerrymandering, and the way our Congress allows districts to be formed allows us to make no movement, right? So it goes down to Supreme Court. I would argue that the executive branch can have more power because of like executive orders can be signed and nobody, and like the average citizen is not informed. And the average citizen, unfortunately, is also makes up like police officers, military members, right? The average citizen does. And therefore they will probably enact on them without thinking that they're okay, right? Because we have no vessel of education for like really how our government functions, right? So like theoretically in my mind, like the president could make some outlandish executive order and people would follow knowing that there is no reality to follow, right? Like there's no basis in the order, right? It's not rooted in anything legal. We have a sort of cognizance because the Department of Justice falls under the executive branch, even though the courts are under judicial branch. So executive gets to pursue crimes and have sort of policing power, but the judicial branch adjudicates the latter two, whereas the state level, you have state courts working with the sheriff, which is like the opposite of the federal level, which is weird. Kind of, yeah. All right, let's go.
Specifically delegated to it, having no powers beyond those enumerated. Where then would most of the powers of government reside?
You're right, but who decides what powers are enumerated? Well, the Supreme Court. Who can expand the powers enumerated? The Supreme Court. Supreme Court interprets the Constitution, right? In relation to law, right?
So. The answer was with the states.
Also, that's, I mean, by design, that's a decent thing because like our Constitution needs patch notes.
This was not, as some wrongly suppose, done to protect slavery. Rather, it was done out of the common sense belief that those public officials nearer to the people would naturally be more responsive and accountable to the people.
Yeah, but oh man, but they aren't. They're accountable to a select few of people. That's why republics fail.
To make sure nobody missed the point, after attaching a Bill of Rights to the Constitution, the founders enshrined this principle in the 10th Amendment.
Audio's fine.
The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. In short, whatever the Constitution does not specifically delegate to the national government belongs to the states and the people. But the power of the states was also limited by constitutional prohibitions in certain areas, either because power in those areas had been delegated exclusively to the national government, such as the power to enter into treaties with other nations.
The biggest failure of the Supreme Court is a term length. I can agree with that. I think there is a solution that we just don't do, right? There is a solution to like lifetime appointments. Well, those people make so much money now that this doesn't really matter. But back in the day, it made sense, right? Like a long time ago. Because you would join, become a Supreme Court justice, and you die, like, whatever. You didn't, we weren't that big of a country or whatever, right? In the beginning. We really weren't. But now, we could just, I don't know, be like, you're going to serve, if you get nominated, it's an honorary position, and after you're done being a Supreme Court justice, you just are paid like a presidential, like the ex-presidents get a salary. You're just paid this salary forever, and you're not allowed to work again. You're retired. Okay, so if you want to become a Supreme Court judges, you're appointed for like 10 years, whatever. Let's do 2 terms, 8 years, right? 8 years, and then you're done, and that's it. You're done, and you're retired. You cannot take another position. You could do speaking jobs. I don't give a shit, right? I don't give a shit as long as you do not work for another company or you do not like invest in stocks, individual stocks. 8 years is fine. Remember, government moves slowly. 8 years is fine.
Or because the framers did not want government at
they shouldn't be able to become a lobbyist because lobbyists are ran by firms most of the time.
Any level to have certain powers, such as the power to confer titles of nobility, something incompatible with republic.
They should also be elected, by the way. SCOTUS should be elected. It should be elected. Each federal district in the United States, each district should elect their judge to represent their district and their wants, right? Their interpretation of the Constitution.
Still, as much care as the framers took to constrain government power, federal and state.
Also, that would solve the issue of like favoritism, kind of, or like companies, because then when they get out, right, you're gonna want to favor the place where your like family lives. So like all these people are gonna be competing on making their part of the country better. So
they knew their efforts would fail unless one more component was present: citizens imbued with the spirit of republicanism. People who understood the principles of their Constitution, who valued self-government, and who would be willing to do the work necessary for its maintenance. Citizens who would not yield to demagogues who promised prosperity, security, or anything else at the price of liberty. James Madison had this in mind.
Yeah, liberty, freedom from, not freedom to. Remember that.
When he said that only a well-instructed people could be permanently a free people. By a well-instructed people,
yeah, listen, he meant fascist, dictator.
Madison meant above all a people well-educated about our constitutional liberties and responsibilities. When at the conclusion of the Constitutional Convention, a woman asked Benjamin Franklin what kind of government he and the others had proposed for the nation, he famously responded, "A republic, madam, if you can keep it." The wise old Philadelphia polymath had history in mind in giving that answer. He knew that he and his colleagues at the convention had supplied only the mechanics of what was needed for a republic to long endure. The rest could only be supplied by we the people,
crazy fact,
understanding and fulfilling our duties as citizens. That's why studying the Constitution is essential. How can we fulfill our duties as citizens if we don't understand the...
Okay.